16 minutes late, so I do apologize. We did have the Four Corners Charter School Board meeting that went a little over, so I do apologize to all of you. So we're going to start with the financial status of the Health Trust Fund.
Actually, if you don't mind, sir, we're going to start with the Center for Employee Health update.
Sounds good to me.
David is here, a friend from Florida Hospital, and
right.
he'll begin to go through that information.
All right. Well, we're going to jump right in on the very first page behind your agenda to some numbers that we put together. Wanted to first let you know the number of unique patients that we've seen since we opened in April of 16. We've been tracking that percentage as we've been going through time. And out of the total members, which were a little over 9,000, we've seen 66, almost 6,700, which calculates out to a little over 73% of all the members have been to the center at least once. So that means they could have come for a DOT, they could have come for a workman's comp reason, certainly for their own personal health care, but they've been there, seen it at least one time. So we're quite happy with that 73%.
What, so that's a little more than a year and a half time frame, right?
Mm-hmm, that's correct.
What do we think percentage of the population goes to a doctor in a year and a half? Do we know?
That would be coming
think we're
from
better or worse or about the same as general?
Probably better.
I would say it's better,
Yeah.
based
Seems like
on
high
what our
number to me.
experience in the
Well,
center has
never
been,
go. Yeah.
and it's probably dramatically better in that many had held back until the center opened to then start coming and getting some health care.
Okay.
Below that, this is now a different time frame, so this would be for the 12 months of calendar year 2017. So these are just selected measures that we've looked at. The first one here being if the care had been received somewhere else based on the Cigna claims experience in terms of cost versus at the center for primary care, for urgent care, for DOT, drug testing, workman's comp, physical therapy, to see a dietitian. You can see those various historical costs under the historical Cigna column, and then the center costs, which cost accounting is an interesting process, as I'm sure you know, but we have put that together in as specific a way as we can to also let you see, for example, for physical therapy, what that cost difference is. It's $42 as opposed to approximately $125 what was being spent. You see the volume there on the right. For primary care and urgent care, the vast majority of that is for more acute, urgent kinds of events. But when you look at that comparison between those two sources of cost, the center and then where the care was being provided, it comes to a savings of a little over $700,000 for that 12-month period. So $713,000 would be that comparison.
And that's their out-of-pocket, right?
This is your cost
This
as
is
a
our
school
savings,
board.
not the
Our
individual.
savings.
Okay.
Correct. That's correct.
So do we know, as a Cigna employee, they could still go to their regular doctor, right? I mean, like they did before any of this?
Sure could.
Do we know how, I'm trying to think how to ask the question.
Yeah.
Let's say 10 people did it and it was $70 a piece more, it'd be $700 or whatever it is. Do we know that difference too?
As to how
In
many
other
are-
words, if you took everybody that went to their regular doctor, did whatever they used to do, had they gone to the clinic, that number could have been twice as much, or 3 times, or half again as much?
So we haven't done that calculation. Certainly we have a capacity issue, but I know you're not asking that particular question, but
The answer to that question helps with whether it's worth increasing capacity or not.
that's true. And what we have today is a cost between, say if you go to your doctor just for the flu, that average cost we know is of $155 now at wherever else that care is received.
Right,
In the center, it's $133.
okay.
And that also includes not just the resources needed to provide the care on site, but it also includes the PEPM per month that is sort of the backstop for all those services as well
So I guess the
administratively.
question is, using the flu as an example,
Do we know how many flu patients in the last 60, 90, 180 days we've seen?
We could easily run a diagnosis list.
Because we're talking about
Okay.
$22 a head is what we're saving as a self-insurer.
Mhm.
I'd like to see, as it relates, I mean, has it been 1,000, has it been 500, and that way I can quantify.
And they save significantly more than that.
Yeah, that's the next line down.
Yeah.
Right, but they're not, they don't, right.
Right.
But there's no way to tell that how many of those folks, because the service was provided at no cost, went just simply because they thought they had the flu, where they wouldn't have went to the
Great
doctor if they had to
question.
spend
Yeah,
$30
there's a lot
out
of
of
that.
Drawing them
pocket.
in.
Because they knew it was no cost, they just said, "Oh, I got the sniffles. I'm gonna run in there real quick, maybe they'll throw some
But even though
Tamiflu
it's
at me."
$100 out of their pocket, Ricky, even if they go to their own doctor as being self-insured, we're still gonna pay something. So I'm guessing that we're still ahead on that.
That's not what I was.
No, he's saying people went for free.
Yeah.
It
People
was
went because
free
there
as
was no
opposed to going
cost.
to their doctor.
And there's
for
no way to
$30.
kind of quantify
I hope
that.
those
They wouldn't have
people who are
otherwise
thinking about
gone.
going for free understand now.
Would
see
they
it.
not have gone if it weren't free?
Now, I hope those people now see this as a valuable benefit then, within that context, that they're thinking like that.
I'm sure they do. But then that kind of cost us, because it's still, even though it's not costing us 185, it still costs us 133.
Right.
And that's always been kind of the trick in terms of Employee Wellness Center. The idea, though, overall, is the idea that we're going to get people to wellness.
Correct.
So people who didn't go to the doctor because there was a cost or because there was an extra burden or whatever, now go and seek medical care.
Oh, I'm not
before
complaining
they're
about it.
really
I'm
sick.
just-
But there is also that piece that I wouldn't have gone to the doctor if I had to pay out of pocket. And now this clinic is there, so yeah, I'm going to go.
I think that's why we decided, right, to show this,
hate
rather than
doctors, no
going,
matter how
okay,
much it
we've got, you
We
know,
have several in the house, so.
1,400
I'm willing to
visits.
do it. They gave me $100.
Multiplying that out by $150, right, and saying, okay, we saved this much money, because you don't really save it. It's people who didn't go to the Cigna network. So by factoring in the full cost of what the clinic actually is charging you guys and showing the difference, the $22, give or take, right? Because some visits are more expensive, some are less. You get that $700,000 sort of delta, if you will. You know, we can't give you a check for $713,000, but essentially those are claims that were provided through the facility, not through the Cigna network, but we didn't give full credit for that claim visit because it'd be, you know, several $1 million, and it just,
Now, you said though, in our cost, you include the cost of the contract or whatever you call that thing, but it probably does not include overhead for the center and that sort of stuff, right, to build it?
not the building part of it.
I guess where
Building
But the
the
operational
asset
costs,
now.
right?
The annual
Operational.
operational costs.
are in this,
Well,
Yes,
Okay.
all of
So
that.
that's-
Yeah.
are included in the number before you subtract it.
yes.
Okay, so
That's the
am I
net.
correct then, about the only cost that's probably not in here is the overhead of the building?
Well, we even have cleaning for the building
Yeah.
included.
You do? No, but I'm talking about the cost to build it.
Capital costs.
I guess where
Capital?
I'm looking at, we're picking up some savings here. We're having to put a lot of money into our trust. I know we're gonna get to that. So I'm trying to understand in my own mind, does that mean, had we never done this at all, the money we've been having to put in the trust every year, would it be $700,000 higher, or would it be, I guess where I want to get to at the end of the day is,
Yeah.
it's costing us a lot of money. We all knew it would, I know it's cost avoidance,
Yeah.
but we're clearly not avoiding enough, because
It would have cost us this much more.
so, plus it would have cost us some amortization on building the building for several $1 million. So I'm trying to get, like I say, at the end of the day, I'd like to know, okay, it is indeed costing us more. We knew to start up it would cost more. Is that a curve? And where are we on the curve? Hopefully, we're on our way down. And if we're not on our way down, how do we make it go down? Because while it's a great benefit to our employees of $1.2 million, it can't be a drain to us. I mean, it doesn't make sense for us to spend $4 million to save employees 1.2. So,
I think one of the ways that you could look at it, however, is that if we're saving $700,000 a year, in 4 years, you will have paid for the building.
okay.
And you'll have that capital investment on a long-term basis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. So then if you want to net that out, then we're just looking at our reserve hit
Correct.
every year for those 4 years, which is fine. I just want to get,
Sure.
I want to figure out if this makes sense long-term or not, basically. I mean, I hope it does.
Another area where we found some savings, and that's the next item, is the effect on steerable ED. So the definition of steerable is set by Cigna, and is really those cases that showed up at the ED but shouldn't have. So hence steerable, they should have been steered away from the emergency department. So there were 347 just before, the year before the opening of the center. There were 280 through about May, I think was the period of time that I've been looking at. So a drop of 67. So there remain 280 for an additional opportunity of savings there. But just those 67, if you look at the difference between a steerable ED cost, that's $990, to an urgent care cost of $155. I didn't go to 133, although you could argue I should have. But 155, which is an urgent care cost, that's that $835 for each and every patient that does not go to the ED. So if we get them at the center and don't have them go to the ED, that's $835.
Savings to the district.
Savings to the district.
I got a question.
So those 67
We got two
alone
of those
saved
for
about
Richard-
$56,000.
Richard Booth.
So, am I missing, so
Not
the
for
question
me,
I've got
my
is, our emergency room visits in 2016-17, are they declining significantly? Because I don't see that.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was in the Cigna CAP report as well. There are
It is.
still some steerable visits that could have been avoided, but it had
Yeah, it
was
declined.
almost.
I'll tell you, Jake, hang on, let me find it.
So,
for
I
you.
mean, what did it go from to?
Yeah.
Because that's a quantifiable number.
The ones that we know we can't affect immediately when the problem is happening are those that are not steerable, that really need for a more acute reason to go to the ED.
Yeah, heart attack.
But we do know that in the year during the center operations, there were 280 that we should have had moved over, not gone to the ED. Now, of that, how many were on the weekend? How many were in the middle of the night? We haven't parsed that out. But in any event, there is still opportunity to improve that number even more for savings of about $835 per patient.
Is there a way to improve that number through Florida Hospital where you do have places open at night and everything else?
Central
where-
care.
Where we get a large, I don't know, discount's the right word, for using that after hours.
That's a communication that we need to continue to emphasize.
We do have a brochure that we put together that's available in the center that educates sort of when to go to the ED, when not to go to the ED. And we've put the center in red letters and identified that with the hours, et cetera. And we've also said if the center's not open, your next option is an urgent care site. And so they do have a number of urgent care locations that they can choose
Now,
from.
aren't all of your urgent care centers branded Centricare?
They are.
Okay, so the message shouldn't be go to an urgent care, go to a Florida hospital Centricare because we're part of that network. And if they go to that Centricare and you're closed, what's the copay?
Then they would go to the ED,
Deductible and co-insurance.
and so it would be
right?
dependent on the plan structure. I don't know what that number would be.
So, all deductible and co-insurance for the ER, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the same fee as going to an ER, is what you're telling me?
Correct.
Well, but the
'Cause that's
the
where you
bill's
go.
a lot higher, right?
If you go to
gonna be-
Centricare, if you go to Centricare, it's not an ER.
Correct.
So if you go to Centricare, what's the fee? It's the same as ER, you're
That's
telling me?
deductible
Oh, no,
and
no, no,
co-insurance,
no, no,
right?
no.
That's all, but the benefit to the employee is deductible and co-insurance also for urgent care, right? So they're gonna pay, if the bill's $800 at Centricare, you're gonna pay your deductible first. So if your deductible's $500 and you've had no claims, you're gonna pay $500 and then 20% of the rest. There's no copay for urgent care, right?
So there's no good
Versus
benefit.
like a doctor's office where it's
So what's the
$30.
incentive to go to Centricare versus somebody else in that?
It's
that
a lot
financial-
faster.
Well, but
Yeah.
if I'm a patient, if there's no financial benefit,
Well, it's a less expensive bill. It's an $800 bill on
well, if there's
average
another
versus
urgent care
$3,000.
that's not part of Centricare, my point.
They could go there.
So it's the same, so it's
And
the
that's
same.
where I was going. If we've got
Yeah.
Florida Hospital involved in this, is there an opportunity to negotiate
Uh-huh.
the fact that we have a health clinic with your company when they're not open, are you the backup at those health clinic rates?
Or at a better rate,
Or a-
$10 copay,
or a-
$15 copay.
And certainly, that copay decision would come in how you're steering patients based on your plan design. to
Well, we'd rather
think
steer
even more
them to
aggressively.
you than to a different urgent care or do an emergency room, but at the same time, you know, if I'm the patient, if I tell somebody who works for me, it's not gonna cost you any less if you go to XYZ urgent care versus Centrica, they're gonna go to whatever's convenient.
They're the closest one to their house.
Right, if they find out that they go to Centricare when the clinic's not open, versus a regular emergency room or versus an urgent care, and it's only a $25 copay, then you've got somebody who's gonna drive by the XYZ urgent care and go to you.
And go to that.
Pegasus Health or whatever else is out
Yeah,
there.
there's not a lot of other ones out there, really. Florida Hospital's kind of,
Certainly on
But they're not
More to the
the,
market.
they may
They're
be the
not the
McDonald's
ones.
of it, but they're still flying
There's
out there. There's a
others, yeah.
Chick-fil-A and there's a Taco Bell.
I think the thing is, adding a copay for any urgent care is only going to drive more utilization to urgent care versus having the deductible. So while it's a good idea to say, we want to steer you to Florida Hospital Centricare, we don't want to do it with plan design because it's going to cost us money. People, instead of paying that deductible, they're going to pay a copay, plus there's far less.
Well, I guess the question
financial
would go
barrier
to your
go.
point, though, how many people, because the clinics aren't open, just aren't going to any urgent care when they need to?
Well,
And if
I don't
that,
know.
I know, I
It's hard to know that
recognize
stuff.
Open question.
And if knowing that they've got this for an option means that they may go there, I mean, it's something to consider.
It went down, so both your ER and your urgent care utilization went down from last year to this year. Not a lot, but a bit.
Urgent care is pretty significant.
Went down quite a bit.
Yeah, so let's see.
231 to 115.
Oh, you're on what page
That's
again?
50%.
I was looking at the
Page
dollars.
40.
Okay.
Page 40.
Next page. Yeah, I was looking at the dollars. The number of visits, yeah.
Page 40.
I go to
But the
31.
ER is down. We got a different package, sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah, emergency room went down by about 7%, right, overall, which is great. So folks are going to the ER less. That's the steerable stuff that David pointed out.
Right.
And urgent care went down by over like 50%.
So
as Ken
7%,
said.
7% represents, what's the actual number? It went down from 1,000 to.
Well, they show it on a visits per thousand, so it's 231 visits per thousand versus 115, so times 7,000 members, it's about 1,400 to about 900.
Times
visits.
800, times 800.
It's a lot of visits.
So the different, 900 from 1,400 to 900,
Mm-hmm.
it's 500 times 832, so we're saving over $40,000. It was $832 what we saved by people who don't go, based on what you were telling me, times 500.
You do your math even quicker than me.
That's not math, it's money.
Trying to keep up with it.
That's $40,000.
To do what now? To go,
If I'm saving $832, according to what you said earlier, for everybody who doesn't go to the ER.
right.
So now I'm going from 1,400 to 900.
Well, they wouldn't have all necessarily gone to the
These
ER,
are
just because I went to
steerable.
the urgent
These
care.
are five, but you said I'm doing 500
These are,
less.
these are people that went to the urgent care, not steerable stuff. The steerable stuff was the ones that we saved on. These are people that just went to urgent care. The reason it's down by 50% is because they go to the center.
Because the center's open.
Because it's free. I mean,
Still
that's,
trying to get trying to quantify this with hard numbers. Okay.
So what we are encouraged in seeing is that the cost of the urgent care has dropped quite a bit because now it's at the center.
right.
Which your urgent care cost historically, as you see on this one page, has been 155, and the cost for the center has been 133. So we've been able to drive that cost down for when you need something acute. Now that number also includes a full physical as well, so it's certainly a much lower number.
How many
on
Centric
average.
Cares do you have around Osceola County?
We
Or
have-
South Orange, East Polk, like in our service area?
I would say 6 or 7. We have them on the 429 and Osceola Parkway, and one there, and then our farthest east is probably Hunter's
St.
Creek.
Cloud, don't you?
Hunter's Creek,
One in
St.
St.
Cloud
Cloud
to the
on
south.
192
New
by
one.
Chili's.
Yeah, right.
There's one on 182 by Medieval Times.
And is it how,
Yes.
what's the
West.
hours on it?
They're 8 to 8, Monday to Friday, and Saturday and Sunday 8 to 5.
And there's always a doc there?
There's always a doc there.
So the reason I ask is, I mean, the board was pretty clear in what they were saying, that if there's an opportunity to encourage employees to go to CentraCare as opposed to another urgent care facility, and there's a way to communicate the partnership and the value that exists between Florida Hospital and the Osceola School Board, then you guys can sharpen a pencil to figure out what that equation can look like so that we can communicate to our employees, drive past this one to go to this one, it's still within the same care network, and it's going to cost you less money and cost us less money. They don't care about it costing us less. That's not crossing their mind, but costing them less does matter. And if there's a way for that to further strengthen our partnership, I think you're hearing a very clear desire from the board to say, sharpen a pencil and come to the table with some options for us so that we can further find value in the relationship.
But we wouldn't want to be driving that during the week when the hours are the same. We'd want to be
Oh,
driving
absolutely.
that
Well,
during
we
the
would tell
weekend,
them. I
the
mean,
weekend out.
The theory would be that we're communicating really
Only
four
when they're
things.
closed.
Only go
We're
to,
closed.
only go to the
Right.
wellness center if you have to. If you have to do something, go to the wellness center. If the wellness center isn't available, go to CentraCare. If CentraCare isn't the right place for you, go to Florida Hospital. I mean, that's essentially the pathway that we'd be communicating if there's additional value to find in this relationship
Yeah.
that ultimately ends up benefiting everybody. You want more visits at your CentraCare, that's your model. We want to save money on our bottom line, and we want to make sure that our employees are getting that continuum of care all the way across each one of these platforms.
We are working too, in fact,
That's
Eric
good.
with Gallagher,
That's there.
you can address that?
Well, yes, so Cigna can do what's called a client-specific network. The issue that you're talking about is easy to describe, relatively complicated to do, right? Basically, Florida Hospital has a deal with Cigna and Blue Cross and Aetna, right, to say, here's what we're going to charge you guys when your members come to our facility. So that's the deal, right? Whether you're, so Cigna, the rate is the rate for you guys, for Orange County Schools, for me if I'm a Cigna member. That's what they pay the claim at. So if they were willing to give us a little bit better deal, which we can certainly ask them for, Cigna can administer that, right? Some sort of different reimbursement. They just have to set it up in their system. And then we either, out of the goodness of our heart, tell people go there because we would prefer you go there, or maybe we give them a little bit better benefit. It could be a $250 copay for urgent care. I don't want to have a $50 urgent care
Right,
copay because then people are going to go because it's just
redefine
handy.
behavior, exactly.
Yeah, but make it, instead of deductible and coinsurance, make it a dollar amount. So that you could do. But it wouldn't necessitate a better deal from CentraCare. We're not going to just put you in at a better, benefit than ORHS's urgent care and let you have the benefit of going there. So
Did I
It's not gonna save
communicate
you much, though.
what the intent and desire was from what you guys were saying?
Yeah, that's exactly
So
what
I think that's really the question, is going back, and this is for you guys, go back and figure out what you're willing to do. And I think, I've been very clear from the things that I've said at the school board days that, I value the partnership with Florida Hospital. I want it to be a mutually beneficial, long-term partnership. But as you've heard Mr. Thacker say, it's a very expensive scenario that we're dealing with, and we're bleeding money in areas that we can't continue to bleed money. And so in order for any relationship to work, there has to be equity provided on both sides. And there's times where we'll take the hit, and there's times where you'll take the hit, but ultimately we say we do it because we're truly partners in this. And I think the general tone right now is we're having a hard conversation about what is the reality of what this wellness center looks like for us and our fiscal bottom line, and how much of a partner is Florida Hospital going to continue to be with us in sharpening that pencil and tightening this up so that we can continue down the path we started together. Is that fair?
Yeah, you want Osceola, you want a teacher whose kid's playing in a ball game on Saturday and sprains their ankle, not to drive to the Nemours clinic, but to drive to the CentraCare clinic because
Right.
it's going. But you would have to communicate that. But there has to be a benefit.
yeah, do with money for that part of it. But we do get the benefit of better data back and forth from a CentraCare versus Nemours, right?
Sure.
Tests don't get repeated, et cetera.
Right.
We're also working on a cost comparison card that takes the various places in which service is provided and what's the cost to them as employees in going to one versus the other. If you go to the ED, this is what it costs you. If you go to urgent care, this is what it costs you. If you come to the center, this is what it costs you. to use telehealth, this is what it costs you. So that's being drafted now, which is intended to help them understand too where their best deal is for them and the best way to seek care and why.
Yeah. It's a pretty simple communication method. I mean, we all know, we've all talked to over 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, whatever the math is, people have said, I broke my leg, which hospital can I go to, right? Which one's in my network? You know, this is what's going on. Everyone asks that question. They've been trained to ask that for the last number of decades. And so it's the same type of thing. We just have to figure out how to simplify this pathway and these options for them so they know when is the right place to go. I have a very clear vision in my head of how we communicate that, but we've got to make sure the math works in order to do it.
We can get a magnet, fridge magnet
Exactly.
with that information on it.
Or if you can get it down to the size of your insurance card, where you have 2 cards.
You always have it with you.
So you can pull out the little map or decision tree, whatever it's called.
If this,
Uh,
then that.
Mhm.
If this,
Yeah,
then
that's
that.
exactly what it is.
Yeah, we're doing the nowhere to
And
go
some
there.
of that,
Exactly.
in terms of consumer-based decision-making, is available in the mysignet.com app that people have. They can go in and comparison shop. I have to have knee surgery. If I use this doctor at this hospital, what's it gonna cost compared to this doctor at this hospital? People just don't utilize it very much.
Yeah.
That's where
But
an
you know-
education campaign can sometimes be very, very helpful.
I
Well, and
wouldn't
that's-
even know that existed. I mean, I don't, because I'm not the kind of person that research. I go when I gotta go. I don't sit around on a Saturday and go, let me go research my Cigna policy and see what, so how do we?
Yeah, and that's the patient behavior piece that I mentioned a year or 2 or 3 ago, where I said I had to go to the allergist, and they were freaked out that I was asking them how much it was going to cost. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I'm ultimately paying for this one way or the other. I want to know what it's going to cost me. And it's patient behavior. Nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, most people don't take the time to look at it. But if they're going to buy a car, a house, or anything else, they figure out what it's going to cost. But when it comes to their health care, they just go, where do I go?
I want it fixed.
Yeah.
The other thing that's not being utilized that you also have much is the Ask a Nurse. You have a nurse access point
Now I
for
know why,
questions.
because I didn't know we had it.
Yeah.
24/7.
I guess we haven't done a very good job publicizing that.
But that's intended to be included on this information that we're putting together that helps them understand that better.
So is Ask a Nurse a text, an email, or you pick up the phone?
Pick the phone.
It's a live
Okay.
Talk to the nurse.
Is it 24/7?
24/7,
Yes.
right. That's Cigna's deal.
Okay.
When you're gonna diagnose me at home and then bring me the drug so I don't even have to leave my house?
We're gonna talk about
That's
that
a
actually.
drug.
Have an
Amazon's
opportunity.
working on it.
Close.
Yeah, Amazon's buying Florida
Right.
Hospital.
But yeah, those things are important for people to understand, and we can certainly promote that at the center and do talk about those things. The other number you see here is one that Ken shared with you. This is through December, so this is a calendar year number also of the savings to the employees by not having a copay when they come to the center. So this is for medical and pharmacy. That comes to almost 1.3 million. Does not include any lab or x-ray components that would be out of pocket for them should they need that. So they receive those 2 things at the center as well, and that would just be an additional value on top of this 1.3 that's just not included in that right now. So just those 3 numbers come to either an employee benefit or a cost avoidance, as Sarah was mentioning, of a little bit over 2 million.
And I'm sorry, you just said this, but is this 12 months worth, or is this the full time? Oh, I see, it's at the top, 12 months, okay.
So all of these are the
Okay.
12 months of
Full
value.
Okay.
2017.
Okay.
Below that solid, so any other questions about that? I don't want to rush too fast, but.
I want to split over. I want to ask a question. Are there any other on-site clinics you operate for other employers?
There are. We do that, although they're modeled very differently. They don't have near the comprehensive services. But we do that for Wyndham. We have a nurse practitioner on site for Wyndham. The same model for Darden. Those are 2
So
of
no
our
place else
larger-
though where you got a doc on site?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Those are 2 nurse practitioners.
Got it.
Through the choice of the employer saying, you know, we really want to offer that level of care all the time, and we really don't need more than that. They don't offer other things either,
I
such as
guess,
physical
and I'm
therapy.
thinking out loud, I mean, relative to this, we already know the sheriff did their own deal, City Casino's got their own deal. What about if we could maybe partner with KUA or some other, public, some other local employers. I don't know if we've got the capacity at the clinic, or B, it makes financial sense, but I'm just trying to think of ways for it to work out better for us. And I don't know that there's an answer for that.
Or would it be worthwhile, and I don't know if they would do this with us, to have Gallagher work with whoever their Gallagher is, if maybe it's even you, I don't know, to help us find what's working well in each model, or better in each model.
I just think that, the more.
That would help us all, I think.
Sure. The
I don't know if they do
utilization
that or
we
not.
get.
The city of
I
St.
can
Cloud
ask.
doesn't have anybody yet.
No, they do.
Oh, they do now?
Yeah, they had.
Oh, that's right, they just had it.
Well, it's been there, actually, they
We
were
wanted,
up in operation.
we were gonna partner,
Yeah.
if
I'm
we
thinking we
I talked to
actually-
you about partnering with them if we open something in St. Cloud.
Right. We
That's
actually
right.
met with all of those,
KUA, Toho Water.
everybody.
Toes with the city.
Yeah. City of St. Cloud, City of Kissimmee, KUA, and the county.
It's just hard for me to believe there's not a
Sure.
cost benefit for this all being in one organization, for me as a taxpayer.
I'm not convinced you're wrong.
Oh,
but
there's a
meanwhile-
benefit as you as a taxpayer,
But
not
meanwhile-
so much as you as the person.
Clarence, I think it'd be easier to get partners like Publix and Walmart than the cities and counties, because they already got their own deal. You're right, so we gotta.
I raised this question with those before there was one at the county or the sheriff's department open.
We've gotta
And
look
I
at
was
non-
told,
we-
as long as you join ours, we'll go together.
We gotta look at
And
non-traditional.
we were already pretty far down the road.
It's, once
at that
again, we've
point.
created a
mentioned
whole nother
something-
bureaucracy, 5 of them.
Yeah. You mentioned something about an on-site nurse practitioner. This is just a question I want to ask. Would there be any value to having a traveling nurse practitioner from the clinic that could go to a school and diagnose a teacher, so that teacher didn't have to come to the clinic?
Call a nurse.
No, but she would go, do all the vitals, do the
On a-
stuff.
And maybe they go to
Rotating
Thacker
basis.
Central and Highlands on Monday, and they go to OHS, whatever, however they get grouped, or they can make rounds.
Well, part of what we'll talk about today as well is telehealth and
Sure.
e-care. So that, to a large degree, would answer some of that.
Okay.
Because we are managing a capacity issue at the center.
And that's kind of what I was looking, get the person out to where the person is, send them to Thacker Elementary, they diagnose the teacher, oh yeah, you've got the flu, get out of here, here's your Tamiflu, go. Or whatever.
It better not be there if they have the flu.
Well, you know
They
what?
are. They are.
They are,
Yeah.
and kids are too.
We wanted to look a little bit at workman's compensation and the effect there, and these are very, very recent numbers in terms of our receiving them, and wanted to share some of that. This is from 3 selected years, 15, 16, and 17. Again, think workman's compensation only. In 3 areas. Physical therapy is the first one. We have a cost of $227,000 amount allowed in 2015. In 16, that went to 282, and in 17, it went down to 81. So when we turned on workman's comp at the center, it was in August of 16. And for physical therapy specifically, if they were already in a course of therapy, we didn't interrupt that. They stayed there for however long that was approved for. And then in 2017, again, don't know what that 81,000 totally represents. I did check with our team just a day or two ago about that pattern of referral of physical therapy. Both our providers make that referral, which they really never go outside of the center, unless the patient for some reason has a real difficult problem getting to the center, which we rarely run into, which you'll see with some numbers in a minute. Or we have someone who is receiving care elsewhere for other specific reasons that that we're not able to provide. Again, haven't parsed that 81,000 numbered in, but much less than in 2016, which we would expect. The second one is imaging, and this is all types of imaging, MRIs, CT, PET, all ultrasounds, etc. And it speaks to how we're utilizing imaging as we provide urgent care, or as we provide workman's comp. But the count for that is, as you see here, in 15 it was 261,000, in 16 it was 393,000, and then in 17 it was 228. So it was certainly headed in the right direction, both in cost and in volume. You see where there was 327 events there in imaging for that entire 12-month period.
And this is what went through the workers' comp TPA, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Through John's
So
Eastern.
these were your costs, you guys paid, right? Okay.
That's right.
Not what the clinic charged you.
That's correct.
They don't
These are
charge- they don't charge
all
work
John's
comp.
Eastern
Yeah.
costs. And then the third one is all doctor visits, not just orthopedics or any other type of specialty, but all types of doctors. You see that count in 2015 was 1286, and that in 2017 was 320. So if our providers at the center needed to refer to a specialist, that was done 120 times basically in 2017 for a variety of
So when
reasons.
somebody
that
gets
may be.
referred to a specialist, they're no longer at the clinic and there's a copay, correct?
Not for
Not
workers'
for work
compensation.
Not for, okay, so but for anything else?
No, it's all the, well, the employee doesn't pay anything for workers' comp.
No,
right?
I didn't say,
Not for workers' comp.
flush, but for anything else, if you get referred out, there's copay.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mr. Krumperbacher has a question.
Yeah, Ken and I met this week, and we're Dr. Pace asked us to get together and we're working through workers' comp and leave to really tighten up some things to make sure there can't be any abuse, et cetera. But when you run the numbers, can you check, when you talk about the people that don't come because they may have a hard time getting to the center and they go somewhere else, are the numbers that costing us, would it justify us if you looked at the numbers saying, we're going to send a car to bring you to the center? You're not going to have the excuse. No, I mean, those dollars can, as you know, can get really out of control.
Absolutely, yeah.
And to let somebody go, well, I'm going to go to some of these people that'll keep them going forever.
Well, they'll send a van
Versus,
probably, right?
we'll send a van to pick you up and bring you to this. Can you run that check?
So we can't historically, we
Right,
can
but-
certainly do that prospectively as we go forward. Dr. Schwartzman may be able to speak to how little, I know when I spoke with our physical therapist team, you know, how often are we not taking care of physical therapists as they get referred, and it was very seldom.
Yeah, it's just the.
Very seldom.
My theory is the person that generally looks the other way may be being whispered by a lawyer to go to X therapist. And so I'd like to nip that if the dollars justify it and say, no, we're going to come get you. You're not getting to go to this.
So we would find that in this 672 number in 2017,
So,
and
yeah,
John
I should-
Eastern maybe
yeah,
could give us that
that'd be great.
detail.
Ken, if
I'd be
we-
curious also, as long as we're talking about, on the flip side, for lack of a better term, how many frequent flyers do you have? People who like make 7 visits in a month on a regular basis, but there's nothing wrong with it, just because they
To
can
the
go,
center.
they go, and
Yeah.
they're abusing it. I mean, I don't know if we're tracking that at all, or if we're doing any counseling. When somebody's going an inordinate amount of time, we're finding that there's nothing wrong with them, other than the fact that they like going to see the doctor.
I know we aggressively manage how that schedule is filled, and certainly there needs to be a legitimate reason for that appointment, and if we know them that well, our care coordinator is involved in talking with her. You don't need to come in, this is how we can take care of you, et cetera.
Usually if you know them that well, because they've got some chronic
Yeah.
diseases that need
Yeah.
to be managed. Their time's important. They're not-
Okay.
We
No,
have had-
I'm not discouraging anyone from
Right.
going, but there are
Right.
some
It's a good
people who
question.
just-
I thought
We
that too.
we have had
you know.
that discussion with Jackie, the office manager, and you know, she said, really, they haven't, because we were a little concerned about that, quite honestly, that, you know, there
Right.
might be people that would be
Mhm.
chronic visitors, but they haven't really seen that, like Dr.
Yeah.
Schwartzman said.
Good.
If they needed to be there, they were there.
No, if they gotta be there, I'm to go.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're right in the
Decision-making
sense
because
that
of
someone who's got sniffles for a
condition
day,
of trust.
probably not going to go to a regular doctor for that. But it's here, it's free. But we try to tease out the priorities.
Sure. Sure.
On average, physical therapy treatment is being accomplished in 6 visits on average, compared to an industry that's 10 to 12. So they really try to only see them when they need to see them, and then you're fine.
When you look at this, the counts, make sure I'm understanding this, look extremely impressive, but these are the counts that we're not doing. Do we have anything that should, are we making any progress on workers' comp physical therapy counts, or is
These
it
are the
really?
ones that you are doing. These are going outside.
These are the ones we are doing?
Yeah, through
It
John's
says
Eastern.
non-center, I thought.
Yeah.
So we have really reduced our physical therapy visits?
No, these are
Or
the,
counts?
these are the numbers that Johns Eastern has received in terms
Yeah,
of costs.
the number that we're not doing.
Yeah, that's what I
Not doing
said.
it.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was saying. So this looks really great,
Yeah.
but what would be interesting in comparison is, while
Yeah, right.
the non-centers went down, but in total, we went from 1,700 to 2,700, which we don't have here, right?
That's correct.
No, but I think we
So-
should see on the next page what their number of visits
Okay.
in the center.
I'm just curious,
Yeah.
if
We add
we're
that
making
up.
any progress, I mean, we're making progress by moving them in, but is our,
The total number.
is our total workers' comp,
Cost going down.
well, I know the cost
Not
is
just
going
the
up, but
cost, but the number
are
of
we get, like, I
actual
said, did we go
workers'
from
visits.
1,700 here to really 1,900 to really 2,300 here? Even though we did, how many that is in half? I'm just curious, I know it's not on there.
And I am working with our lead therapist and being more proactive. He is going to start getting out into the field. I said, what's your largest source of injuries? And as y'all probably already know, custodial immediately said. So he's wanted to take more proactive measures in getting out there to custodial to say, let me see what you're doing. We put together some information that the managers can use to help minimize those injuries, et cetera.
I think
Is there
it's
additional training that we could offer or
Yeah.
supplies that we could provide to make sure that doesn't happen?
We were
They
talking,
have
could you have
actually already
Osceola,
done that
if you
during
look at our
the
bus
professional
drivers?
development day back in the fall.
That's our other big.
The PT guy went,
You can, yeah. you gotta
Did
continue
several-
that.
So
Deborah,
with,
on that day.
And transportation.
I asked him to look at the bus drivers too, because those are our two big categories from our meeting.
So workers' comp, unlike the clinic, Jay's question, are people going to the clinic just because it's free? With workers' comp, these are visits that people, you have an injury, you have to go, right? So with workers' comp, you can direct them where to go. So I think your question about would our visits have been a lot higher had we not had the center? Your visits were your visits.
No,
Okay.
I want to know what the trend is.
Okay.
Let's
Well, that's a
just,
safety issue, right? Are we having more injuries?
That's what I'm
Yeah,
curious
that's a
about.
different
that's what I'm-
discussion. I think the other thing too, though, is
The total
clearly
plan.
when they're in the center, to your point, it's much more carefully managed. They're getting their physical therapy much more quickly. The lost time and return to work is
I was
probably.
gonna say, do we have any data on
is
how
more
quicker they're getting back to
strictly
work?
enforced, hopefully, right?
We
And it
met
helps
this
your
week
mind.
on that, at Deborah's request, and we're putting together a whole thing too.
okay.
And just, Board, I just do want to remind you that we do need to have a pretty healthy discussion on the health trust fund, and I don't want to push anybody too fast, but, we'd like to end this at 5, and it's 4 o'clock already, just want to make that note.
So let me,
Not you guys end at 5, but the whole thing end at 5. right?
Okay. We'll speed up, just reference some information that we can skip right over and you can read at your leisure. I will draw your attention to this next graph that is regularly provided each month and answer the question about no-shows. And I appreciate the board's support in trying to really reduce that number. You can see the raw numbers for no-shows. If you go to almost the second to the bottom line, when you just look across the data at the top above the graph, you see for the month of December, figure of 220. And that's for December. That was the number of no-shows we had. That's about 12% of the patients that we're seeing. When this topic of no-show, you've got to let us know it's taken care away from your coworkers, started to go out. It was in the fall, the late fall, and we've seen October, November, December with 12% figures of no-shows. Still room for improvement, but we had been seeing 22% in the summer. In several months, 18%, 19%. So just the discussion of there may be a charge you're stealing from your coworkers from being able to get in, that's already reduced it some. On the next page, you see January's. This is also a low percentage and the lowest yet. You don't see January's totals on this graph, because this is just for calendar year 17, but when I look at the actual number of patients seen in January, our no-show rate was 9%. So that 240 is 9% of the patients we
Good.
saw. So it's really
Much better.
working. And patients are starting to receive letters in February. January was our let's learn about the reasons why, and we were trying to be very appropriate and not get too unnecessary in our stiff
Does
messaging.
that count for labs as well?
It does. Labs have gone down, in fact.
Noted.
In
One
fact,
time. I ate. It was fasting. I got up and ate breakfast. And
last week, our physical therapy no-show was 0. 0. We've
Great.
never had
That's
0
awesome.
before. So just a nice note about that. The next few pages are just in the patient opinions. You've seen these before. I won't spend any time on that, but you can see the last quarter of the year. We're still running around 90% or higher for our top box, we call it. I've also included some patient comments from the month of November. These are the iPad survey comments. You've come to the center and you've added some comments as you've checked out. That's where these have come from. And I didn't pull any bad ones out. This is just whatever the comments were in the month of November. And then I've included 2 case studies for physical therapy for you to read. There are about 2 patients that have come in, the experience they've had, the problem they had, how they were improved. What I haven't shared with a case story, but I have mentioned it a couple times, is we had a woman come in who had some real severe knee problems. And her pain went way down to a very manageable number. She had a knee replacement surgery scheduled, and she canceled it because they were able to take care of her in physical therapy. So these are 2 stories of our physical therapy experience that I thought would be helpful for you to see. And also 1 month of nutrition survey results from our dietitian. She continues to be very strong and is also spending a lot of time out in the field now. She's gone to the bus barns, a couple of schools, and talking with people out there in the field, if you will. The 2 maps that you have included are a look again at what is the percentage or number of patients that we're seeing across the district, where they're living. And the first one is total visits by zip code. So this is since we've opened through December. The second map is unique patients by zip code. So both of them tell about the same story. And if you look at the total visits by zip code, you'll see that there's the zip code listed, and then in the right column there's the number of visits, and then a slash, and then the number of covered lives that live in that zip code. So as you go down through those zip codes, you can see what the ratio is between the visits and those that live in those zip codes. And you see it holds pretty strong all the way down. It's not all your zip codes, but it's the vast majority of them. And then on the next page, you can see the correlation to unique patients. We're still seeing about, I would say, half the number of people in that particular zip code coming to the center. So you can go about halfway down and you can see we had 22 in zip code 32825. We had 22 unique lives and 26 covered lives live there. So that's way beyond 50%. You go a little bit farther down, you can just see that correlation all the way down. Roughly about half of those in the zip code have come to the center and received care. And that's again since we've opened through December of 17.
I can't figure it out real quick, but have y'all looked at distance to see if it's significantly worse participation from people, let's say, living in the outskirts versus living close?
So
It's telling us we've got a problem.
we're really not seeing that difference. See, if you go to the very top, you'll see we had 943 unique patients.
That's here.
That's here in where we're sitting right now. And there were 1,276 lives covered. And if you go to the very bottom, 33884, and I'm not sure where that is, but there were 8 unique patients and 10 live in that zip code. So it seems to correlate all the way through those zip codes, that there's a strong
I can tell you that's
use of the center.
Kenansville right there.
The second one
That's
from the top,
Kenansville.
34772, is the east side of St. Cloud.
Yeah, that's my zip code.
Yeah.
But this is Kenansville right
Yeah,
here.
34739 is Kenansville.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 1406.
I'm thinking that might be Yeehall Junction, but I didn't think we had a
Way down
table.
there, yeah.
Poinciana, 34758.
Yep.
That shows a real strong correlation. There are 495 we've seen out of 716.
Only 27.
Yeah, all the way down. So some of these are out of county.
Correct.
So a nice utilization of the center from all over the county.
Yeah.
The newsletter for January, I've only put in here for one reason. Hopefully you're seeing this each month. But the last page of the newsletter just presented the availability of care sessions at the center. It's a fairly new counseling service that's available, provided by a couple of the pastors on Florida Hospital staff. And a number of principals have really expressed appreciation for it being available. It's available on Wednesday afternoons, and it's lightly used still. Haven't seen a big rush of folk coming in, but it has been used and is appreciated as far as an option that your leadership can rely on for their referral outside of the EAP.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. Appreciate it.
Some of our information.
All right, so we'll jump into this. Everybody's got a couple of different handouts, right? The monthly report, which you guys should get every board meeting. This is through December. What we're going to talk about here real quick is, if you go to the first page, page number 2, you have 3 columns, right? You've got the last plan year, so this is October through September of 2016, 2017. You have the first 3 months of this plan year to date, so that's the 14,145,000.
Wait a minute, you're on,
I'm at the top.
you're at PPEPM?
No, I'm right here. I'm just explaining.
Okay,
what these are.
okay.
Okay, because it
Got
kind
it.
of
Thank
relates
you.
as we go through here.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then you have what we call the rolling 12 months, which is your most current 12 months. We look at that. That's what we show you guys every month. We say, so this report happens to be a calendar year. It's January through December. Next month, we'll give you November, or we'll give you January through, what am I thinking here? We'll give you December through January. So it'll drop December and we'll add January. Okay? In a nutshell, right, your total expense for the most current 12 months is a little over $57 million. You took in about $53 million. So you had a shortfall of a little over $4 million in the trust fund, okay? Big number. If you go,
Yep.
Okay.
so I'll let that sink in for a second.
No, it's sunk.
Okay.
And then some.
Right, it's sunk
First
all over the
3
bottom.
months of this year, we're running about $1 million behind for this plan year to date. And there's some reasons that we'll talk about, okay, as we go through this. The prior plan year, your performance was a little bit better, right? You were at 54 million for the plan year versus a revenue number of about 53 million. So, you know, you had a loss, but obviously a lot easier to deal with. The next page really is just, forget it, it's a graph. Your enrollment's very steady, right? Dips in the summer, as you well know. when
You're gonna
teachers
get
go.
to why you think we went from $1 million loss to $3 million, right?
4 million.
Sorry?
4 million.
It was counted.
No, it's, I mean, 1 million's better than 4 million, but it's still $1 million that you gotta make up. I'm not diminishing that. This is the detail, so if you go to page 4, this graph with the table.
Can I ask a question on that 1 million and the 4 million?
Sure.
So what's, I'm sorry.
Page 1.
Jay,
Page
hold
2.
on, let Clarence
Sure, go
ask
ahead,
the
Clarence.
question.
From the time we started the clinic, I'm not sure how the 12 rolling ties into the 2016, 17, and 18.
It overlaps a bit, yeah.
That's what, do we know, kind of since day one, is it a total of 5 million, or is it more that we've taken a hit on it?
Since the center has opened,
Do you know?
we could go back and do that, so May through December of the clinic
Yeah.
opened May of 2016.
Right.
So it's been open about a year and a half, almost 2 years in May.
Yes.
So we know at least the rolling 12 months was all of it.
I think the thing is, you gotta be careful that you don't wanna give all the expense, the higher expense of the health plan to the center versus, and you don't wanna also give all the good credit to the center if your claims are better than average, right? We look at, to your question earlier on, Clarence, about, can we help you with what other entities do with the ROI? One of the hardest things to do with this stuff is to measure a non-event, right? So a heart attack that didn't happen. The knee surgery that you referenced was actually a very good example. Here's a lady who came in, said, my knee hurts, I got knee surgery scheduled, but what the heck, I'll try some physical therapy first because I'd rather do that than have my legs opened up, right? So she did that, she feels better, we saved 50 grand. And if it's a double knee, it's probably $100,000. So the challenge with this stuff is we could say, okay, average trend is 8%, and it is high. I mean, that's not your fault. That's just, unfortunately, health insurance in the U.S. It's still persistently, going up. So we could say, all right, 8% is the average. We're actually at about 6%. The district does better than average. You're still losing money because we're not putting enough into the plan, right? But it's better than average. So these guys could say, well, 2% of $50 million, that's $1 million a year. So we get credit for that. We saved you that money. And we could say, well, no, it should be 0. We shouldn't have had any trend increase. And that's where it gets very difficult to sort of,
I mean, part of the clinic is to cut into that 8%
absolutely
annual increase. It was
So-
to find a way to come back. If we're just going to sit here and stay at the 8%, we'll just keep doing what we're doing.
But we're not. So our trend has been much better over time. It actually, it went up a bit when we opened the clinic. And we talked about this when we first started this discussion from the sense of you're going to find people who have never been to the doctor, right? They just don't go because they're scared, they can't afford it, they don't want to go, variety of reasons. So, we've identified a lot of people in the center, and Dr. Schwarzman can probably speak to this better than me, people who were very sick, but undiagnosed, never been to the doctor. And I know there's a lot of stuff in here, a lot of these claims dollars that we're paying for that weren't happening before. People who are diabetics, hypertensive.
And those are good things.
It is a good thing in the long run, right? In the short run, our costs have gone up.
No, I don't think anybody expected the cost to go down in year one. It's just a question
So
of
that's the challenge.
where are we on a curve?
Yeah. So
Where
I
are
think
we on a
there's
curve?
a lot of things that are happening in this stuff, right? And it's not all related to the center or necessarily the health plan. It's a combination of things. One of the biggest driving factors, if you want to jump to the sort of where do we go next?
I got a question before we get to where do we go next. Relative to what you said, where we were $1 million behind, now we're $4 million behind. The question I've got, and I don't know if anybody has this number, and I don't know if that can relate it to the clinic or not, but let's look at year A versus year B. Year A, did we have, the clinic doesn't do surgeries, okay? So did we absorb, how many surgeries of all kind, outpatient, inpatient, et cetera, were done year A versus how many were done year B? Is it going down?
We actually do have some of that, Jay, so I can look at that from the Cigna data,
I'd
okay?
be curious to see how that's trending
Okay.
also,
Yeah.
based on per 1,000 employees.
You're having more, you've had, Dr. Pace mentioned it right when we first sat down, you've had more catastrophic claims this year than you've had in the past.
Right,
So
and
that's
that
one
shows on the
issue.
graph, if you look on
I
page
see that.
19,
Yeah.
claims over the stop loss, we had 4 months in this last 12 months.
What's
where
that
we had
page look like,
claims over-
Deborah?
Page 19, the one that looks like this.
So let me ask a question.
Okay, I got it, I'm there.
That's significant. The other piece that's in the Cigna report that's significant
Right.
is the specialty drugs. We have some of people who are very, very sick, who are taking medications that are very, very expensive. And there are not generics or alternatives really available for them.
Tell me how to read this, stop loss claims over the 850, the negative 121, does that mean we paid 121,000 over the 850?
No,
What
you got
does
that
that
money,
mean?
that money came back to you.
That came back.
That's
from
what-
In other words, the
reinsurer.
claim-
So we probably paid over the 850,
Up
and
to
we got.
the 850.
Right,
Right.
so the
The
claim
claim
was
was
actually
970.
970, okay,
Right.
okay, I
You
understand.
got it.
And the stop loss pays us back
Got it.
for the
So
amounts
if
over
we are,
850.
if our fiscal year, if 16-17 was $1 million, and our
The
rolling,
plan year.
the plan year, and our
October to
rolling right now, our 12-month is $4 million. That includes a lot of months that were included in the 16-17, correct? Or no?
You've had,
So I mean, so in the end, our 17-18 is gonna be much high. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, part of that 1 million group is some of the months that are in the group that you're telling me are 4 million, so the trend is much higher than just the 4 million for 17-18.
If you look at June,
Question
July,
where we are
August,
on
and
this
September
curve.
of
Are we here, or is
2017,
it a curve
Yeah.
like that?
last summer,
Well,
the summer of 2017 really whacked
Gotcha.
us.
But you understand what
If
I'm
you
saying?
look at pharmacy, drugs, medical claims, and the stop loss, we took a big hit. It's not unusual for claims to go up during the summer. People aren't working, they schedule surgery, that kind of stuff, but this was different than that.
But I also
People who were
feel
very
like
sick.
if we know that we've got 100 people in there that had chronic problems that had never been to the doctor,
right.
that's probably ultimately an accomplishment for this, and it's probably ultimately a savings.
Right.
You would hope.
Initially.
Well, and that's,
Yeah, long-term, long-term.
and I always go back to the graph that Mr. DeBoard and Ms. Maddox, or Haddix, I want to say Maddox, but it is Haddix, presented to me when we were making this decision, and I think it was the Polk County information. It goes up 2.5 years, and then it begins to trend down. And we're in that 2.5 year mark, correct?
Right, yeah, year and a half. We're in.
Year and a half.
Yeah. The revenue side of the equation is the other kind of challenging part. So if you look at, well, you guys know this, right? So we've made no plan design changes for 4 years. The actual benefits, so the deductibles, co-pays, costs that the employees pay, their contribution out of their paycheck, nothing for 4 years. Our costs have gone up on average 4 or 5% every year. So the district has kicked in more money. You guys funded an extra $3 million last couple of years, right? In addition to the 40+ million that you pay. The costs continue to go up. So what's happened is that 4 or 5, that extra $3 million that you guys were putting in, it helped, but it didn't really make up for all of that trend increase. So what's happened is over those 4 years, we've built up quite a bit of, well, look at it the other way, we've spent down our surplus. So if you look at this page, it's kind of hard to read, it's towards the back of your
Page
exhibit.
24.
Thanks, Dr. Pace.
Sarah. Dr. Draper.
My dad.
Off to the right is your surplus. So if you look at the top box, estimated surplus back 6/30/2017 was a little over $12 million. When we first, Ken, help me with this, probably were looking at this 3 or 4 years ago, your surplus was well north of that, right?
14 or 15.
Yeah. So the state of Florida, because you guys are a self-insured public entity, you have to have a safe harbor claims surplus of about, God bless you, 2 months equal of your claims. So in the end of 2017, it was about $9 million, so you were good to $3 million, right? Prior to that, every year, you were always well within that safe harbor. This year, we're looking at our average claims expense. If you look at the far left-hand column, right, these are what your claims actually were. We get to January, it's in italics. We actually know what January was. It was 4.9 million. So that came in right about where we projected.
24.
So your average claims are about $5 million a month. So you need $10 million in your trust fund. Okay. We're projecting for the end of this fiscal year at about 7.4. The very bottom right-hand bold number, 7,368,000. Okay.
I see the 7.4, where's 7,368?
You need
Oh, I see. I
about,
follow-
about
follow.
10
I see.
is what the state's going to require.
I see.
Okay.
So 2.5, 2.8, sure.
So that's June 30th, 2018, right? Couple of little things in here. We have a little bit higher cost in here for administration. That's probably closer to $200,000 a month. So that's a little bit of a margin that we've applied.
$200,000 a month, so we're paying, is that to Cigna?
To Cigna, yeah.
$2.5 million a year and we're self-insured, that just, I don't know.
On a $50 million plan. It's not bad. You have a good deal through
It's
Cigna.
5% though. If it's $2.5 million on 50 million, we're giving them 5%. E-Trade works at a lower percentage rate.
Remember, we did an RFP just about 6
year.
months ago?
Last year.
Those dollars are, okay, even if we can get them to knock that fee in half, we saved you $1 million. They're not gonna do that. So let's look at the claims. Let's look at the
Okay,
big
no,
number.
I.
Yeah, it's not worth fighting over.
No,
I mean, we
I
can fight
know,
them
just,
for it,
I'm
and we
doing the
did.
math in my head, it drives me crazy.
Yeah. That large claim that you had before where you had stop loss reimbursement, that's not going to happen this year, and we won't go into details on it. It's a specific individual. Cigna applied what they call a laser to that individual, so your normal deductible is $850. So in other words, you guys are self-insured up to the first $850,000 for any one person in that 12-month plan year. This individual, they lasered at $2 million. And and you will hit it. So that's.
What do you mean they lay?
They're not.
Explain to me what you just
Cigna
said.
is your stop loss carrier also.
Right.
In addition to administering your claims, right? They also provide the insurance
Right.
for that $850,000 thing.
So
that's like a
now
deductible
we're gonna pay out of pocket up to $2 million?
for that one individual. Everybody else is at $850. But that one individual.
So if we get somebody really sick, they quit insuring it?
They paid the claims last year, so all those dollars where you saw that negative number, that was that one individual. We're
Okay.
collecting that money.
So the one,
Yes, they do that.
it was multi-months, or right, or
Yeah,
months?
yeah,
Okay,
it was
4
several
months.
months, yeah.
So it's stop loss insurance.
If you have to start hitting it, they don't,
if
they
you
change their,
actually- yeah, yeah.
they change their level.
Well,
You articulated it better.
It's a claim, right?
No, I
So
get it.
Look at it, your automobile insurance, your homeowners, get a
So,
lot of claims.
I know without getting into detail, a rare situation that's
Right, can't
a
help it.
rare
Yeah.
situation.
Very rare.
So if we get another one that gets
If you look
sick
on
and goes over the
page-
850, they're gonna up it again on that person? This seems odd to me.
If you look on page 23, you see a
Going
little
forward,
bit
they
of detail,
might,
the
yeah.
detail that we're allowed to provide.
Sure, sure. No,
Yeah,
I wasn't,
I'm not trying to
I was
get
talking
into
about the
what's
rare.
wrong with it.
Just a
Yeah.
second. There are some districts who consider, and some do even forego having stop-loss insurance because it's a risk. The cost of the insurance versus the chances that you're going to actually reach that threshold.
What do we pay a year? What are
I'm
our
gonna tell you right
stop
now.
loss premiums?
You pay about, it's $460 per employee per month. $4.60.
So,
It's not much. It's 30 grand a month, $360,000 a year is what you pay Cigna for that insurance. So,
They paid well over that last year.
so it's not that
We had
we,
even.
So they pay
Dr. Pace
2,
said-
340, 640, 940.
so
Is the
the,
surplus requirement threshold, is that based upon an average of claims over the course of a 12-month period? Is that every single month required to have that? So if it's $5,000, $5 million in claim,
Mm-hmm.
1 month we're required for 10 million, next month if it's 6, we're required to 12, or is it an average?
no,
over
it's
a
an
certain
average.
period?
Yeah, they look at it at the end of each fiscal year.
Okay, I just want to make sure I
Yeah,
understood that.
yeah.
When we did have the stop
I don't
loss,
think I-
or the fund balance of $15 million, we did consider pulling the stop loss insurance. But we decided not to, and that's
So we
when
paid
raised it to
360.
850 because that
You
They
got a
was
paid
benefit last year.
900, so we netted.
It's the first claim you've had since I've
Several
been here.
years, yeah.
So
It's-
Now,
basically,
okay, now that's an interesting question. That's the first claim we've had. So if we've paid 360 for 3 years, we're dead even and they're dead even.
Yeah.
But now they changed their mind. They're not gonna pay for that person anymore.
well, they raised the deductible. They lasered them. So if it gets to 2 million, I'm not
So we're
on their
so
side.
we're
This is
so
just
we're
how they
not
think.
getting anything because as soon as we use up what we, it's kind of like it's not really insurance. It's prepayment.
Yeah, it's prepayment.
You're
for
trading
when
dollars.
It does happen.
You know.
So it's the truth.
Yeah.
It looks good this
Ultimately,
year.
they're gonna win.
But since we didn't use it
Yeah,
the
since
last
we hadn't
3
used
years,
any in 3 years.
we're
Yeah.
even.
It'd be interesting to know how many years we've not used it.
All of them. I mean, for the last 4 or 5 years, I mean, you don't have a lot of claims that get to $500,000,
No,
let
so I
alone
get, so
$850.
we've given
right?
them over time, over 5 years,
$1.5
$1.5
million.
million. They have to put out 900, so they're still probably $1 million up because they've made money on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, we're not gonna do it anymore for that budget. Something doesn't seem quite right.
We involved our.
It's not like they're in the hole yet.
Right.
They're still in a pretty big black.
Have we shopped our stop loss insurance? Did we do an RFP?
We have not. We could do that. It's, very transparent to the employees. They don't care if you're with Cigna or Sun Life or whoever, right?
I was gonna say, I think we did shop that and
Yeah.
got a little bit better deal. than
We could,
previously.
I don't mind the 360, I just think when they have one claim, they just change the level on that person, doesn't seem right to me.
And is this state?
Especially when
Is
they're
this
still waiting.
state law that they can do this, or is this something that can be negotiated within the RFP?
Give them.
Well, it's not, what do you say, it's state law. I mean, they.
Is it, there's a
They're
state
confidential.
regulation that says, okay, you're allowed to do this,
With this
and I know
we ought to
why,
shop
but,
it.
There
or is
are-
it something that you could negotiate and say, hey, we're not gonna put up with this laser
There are
business?
some carriers who will have a no new laser provision. So they'll say, okay, anybody who's currently lasered, we can still laser them, but we won't laser anybody new at a renewal. The problem with those carriers is they also tend to have a much bigger increase on the premium. So the premium increase this year with Cigna was very small. So I know that's not consolation, because they're sticking it to you on that one individual.
The one we need.
I know. So with the carriers who don't laser, they typically tend to have much higher increases on the premium, on the $4.60. That might go to $6 or $7. So you end up paying it one way or the other. The ultimate answer is to not buy stop loss insurance. But can you all live with that in a year where you might have 3 or 4 claims that are over $1 million?
I mean, I'd actually like, I think, Ken to tell us what we've paid, say, let's do a decade, or maybe 12 to 15 years, and say, what have we paid in stop loss insurance, and what have
And
we,
what did we use?
and what it would say.
The
I mean,
worry
because
that I
ultimately
have.
going forward, that's a question that other boards would need to answer for themselves too. Like, we can say, this year, yes, good, but now we know we're getting hung. I don't think it'd be that hard.
Dr. Pace mentioned that these specialty drugs are going up a lot. That's what this individual is on. So
It's
it's,
a drug.
yeah, it's a drug.
And this,
Otherwise, fine. But it runs about $200,000 a month, the drug.
200,000.
Uh-huh. So Cigna's probably still gonna pay something on this individual, even over the $2 million.
What's in this stuff?
What's the nature of the?
Hemophilia. Very rare.
and this person's a dependent, and it doesn't say the age, but they can be a dependent, and I'm not just picking on this one case, up till 26,
30 in
Well,
Florida,
actually 30
actually.
in Florida.
30.
Florida has a different law, state law.
You have to meet a
Yeah.
few more stringent requirements, but they can't be covered up to age 30.
So we may need to keep our stop loss insurance just for this one case.
Well, back to your question, can we market it? Sure, but we gotta tell them all that stuff.
Sure.
Right? We can't just say,
been
oh, they're
marketing
gonna say,
it
hey, Eric,
last
can we
year."
see the claim experience? Did you have any lasers? I can't lie, right?
No,
So-
no, I get that.
And you're not asking me to do that, but they're,
But if somebody gets close to the same price, I really resent when you're money way up
Yeah,
still.
this is what insurance is. I mean, for this family, I mean, you want them to have that coverage, and you want them to be taken care of. And that's what insurance is for.
I'm just dealing with a house we've paid since 1975 on one claim of $3,000, and they canceled us. So insurance companies aren't,
yeah, I know.
Your favorite.
no.
That's why we're a broker, not
I'm
an
pretty
agent.
sure they're way
Are
up
we
on
still
me.
on,
Yeah.
are we still on good pace? Dr. Pace?
So, anyway, so let's talk about some
Dr.
ideas,
Pace,
right?
not a pun.
Couple of things in here, right? So,
Should see our patients.
skip through here. There's a section in here on e-care that we want to just touch on real quick, all right?
Is it through Facebook or Snapchat?
Just
Guy,
quick question.
either one.
The internet, the World Wide Web.
Go back, just real quick, on page 24, when you said that the administrative costs are actually closer to 200, but yet you have them estimated at 300. Why?
Yeah, we just didn't have the right number in here. So we're going to get that corrected. Cigna gave you a premium holiday in October and November of 2017. I'm not defending them. I mean, you're right, they stuck it to you in the stop loss. They really did.
Well, excuse me,
But
what
they
is
gave
a
you-
premium holiday?
They cut their fee. So that's basically,
Never heard of
as
that.
part of the RFP we did last year, right? When we went out to
Yeah, you
bid.
can do that with laser.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, I guess, I don't know.
nobody's sick this month.
They're still gonna pay on that individual. But they did give you a break for 2 months. They basically waived their administrative fee.
But then they caught up with us later on. I mean, they didn't, we didn't come out ahead unless we,
Yeah, we negotiated a better deal with them, and they gave you that premium holiday, so we'll update that. It's about $100,000 a month less.
What's Cigna's
than-
earnings
than
in
we're showing.
$800,000 in reality.
Yeah, so it will help. So we're probably looking at somewhere between 2 to 2.5 million shortfall if our projection is right going forward.
I got a question, I got to interrupt for a second. Dr. Pitts, Sarah, and everybody here, would it be less expensive for us to give employees a pool of funds to go get their own health insurance, period?
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
we walk away from it, and that's on them. We give them every month, and I don't know, but why wouldn't we want to consider that under the circumstances?
The Affordable Care Act.
There's a million reasons, yeah. That's a good one. You pay a penalty.
Well, let's get rid of the ACA. That solves the problem in my
I
book.
need to go, I'm gonna let you guys carry on this conversation, I'll be right back.
You pay $2,000 per employee per year for not providing health insurance, so you pay $14 million to the government. That's the penalty. That's actually, the penalty's a little bit more than that now. It's like $2,100 per employee per year. So that would be to the government. Then you'd have to provide the insurance. People are going to crucify you, right? Because they're going to. The only place you can go now to buy an individual plan is the exchange, and it's Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
Right.
And those plans are very expensive, way more than what you guys are paying. Because the only people who take them are the ones who are really sick. Or generally speaking, people who are really sick.
But you got, but on the.
Well, that's why it didn't work.
That's why
But on the
everybody
flip
pulled out of those
side,
plans.
You could just as easily have a percentage, I don't know, high, low, whose spouses have got health insurance through their employer that's not at the school district of Osceola County, and put that money towards that, where on the other hand, maybe because of this, they're getting the insurance through us.
Yeah, we've talked about that. So there's a number of ideas on the table, okay, around how to control costs, right? Because that's really, we can talk about
Right,
what's happened, who
that's really-
cares?
Right,
What
it's
are we
really
doing
about
going
controlling
forward?
costs. Risk
Right.
management, I get it.
So, there's a pharmacy page in here. We'll skip over the e-care thing for a second. 'Cause I know kind of our timeline.
Page number, what do you-
30.
It's way towards the back, there's
Page
one
30.
page, okay, pharmacy recommendations.
Pharmaceuticals.
The top three ideas, right, are essentially, there's no diminished benefit to the employee through these changes. There's a little bit of an inconvenience factor to them, okay, is what it amounts to. So the first one is essentially putting in a step therapy program that says you can't just go to the very expensive brand name drug that the doctor prescribed without trying some of the cheaper alternatives first. So currently, that's what people can do. They can just go and get if their doctor says, here, take this drug, they prescribe it, off they go. You guys have a copay for it.
Or whatever they
Generics
saw
are,
advertised on TV.
generics are about 5 times more expensive, or brand name drugs are about 5 times more expensive than your generics.
I got a question, Dr. Schwartzman, I got a question for you. Brand name drug versus generic, is the efficacy any different? Okay, thank you.
Assuming there is a generic, right?
Right,
So-
no, I
so,
understand that.
Most drugs have a generic, right? But there's also the brand. So one of the recommendations would be to implement a step therapy program where people have to try the less expensive drug first. If it doesn't work because it makes your stomach upset or whatever, fine, we'll step you up and let you, be approved for the more expensive brand name drug.
Do we know, though, out of the universe of employees we have getting prescriptions, what percentage are getting brand name that
Right
could
here.
get generic?
Here's the savings right here. This is your data, okay? This is the people who are getting brand name drugs right now who could get a generic, but just don't.
That's the 425 or the 625?
It's sort of a in-between number, right?
So 470 impacted.
There's
right there next to
470
it.
people out there that are doing that, and that's fine, but it's costing you about $500,000 more than it
It's
could.
costing us $1,000 a person.
Yeah. So that's the first one. So the next one is the Cigna 90 Now. All right, is essentially everybody knows mail order, right? You send your drug away, they send it back to your house. People hated that, right? They don't like getting drugs in the mailbox. So the pharmacy company said, all right, well, we'll let you go to the retail pharmacy and get a 90-day supply, right? And it feels like mail, but it's much nicer because here's your drug, off you go. People like that. Most of the pharmacies are available to do that, but CVS, Target, and Walmart offer a much better deal for that retail 90 than Walgreens and Publix and all the other places. So if we tell folks, if you want your retail drug, or if you want your mail order drug at retail, you gotta go to either CVS or Walmart. That's worth about between $150,000 and $300,000 a year. These savings are $18 per member per year, right, which is the PMPY. You have about 9,000 members on your plan, so it's between $150,000 and $300,000 a year savings.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, and it's not, you know, if you don't want to go to CVS, then send it into the mail order, and it'll come
No,
to your
why
house.
aren't we doing this now? Just,
Because
have-
people
'cause we
like
have
to go to
this.
Walgreens and get their retail 90.
The total of these things is close to $1 million, or right at $1 million in potential savings.
so why aren't we doing it?
We're gonna do it. Well,
We have to do it.
sorry.
Yeah, it's been presented to the ESP and the teachers, and they've actually signed MOUs for both of these,
See, I
for
mean,
these
so
things.
you can get them at CVS, you can get them at Walmart, or mail order, those are
And
your
the
options.
last one is the value.
So is the 30-day the same thing at those places?
Well, these are mail order drugs that you would get, that you take all the time, so you would just get a 90-day prescription.
Oh, I thought you were saying that you could go to Walgreens or CVS and get the 90-day.
They can, they go anywhere pretty much now.
But and you said CVS and Walgreens were cheaper for the 90-day.
For you guys, they
CVS
charge
No, I
us.
get
CVS
But
is
is,
Walmart.
but is that the same statement for the 30-day?
Wages, benefits.
That they're a 30-day supply is a
Probably.
lot cheaper at Walmart than Publix? No, I'm just,
Well, it's, yeah, I
Or
mean,
didn't.
but,
I don't know.
They're okay.
yeah, we actually talked about a while ago, you know, eliminating one or the other. And to your point, the savings was pretty significant, but it was a lot of disruption to say, okay, we're gonna get rid of either Walgreens, and it's really Walgreens, and make people go to just CVS.
I know.
You said Publix also.
Well, now I'm talking about all drugs. So this is for just the retail,
Uh-huh.
the mail at retail,
Uh-huh.
right? It impacts, I don't know, do we have a number of people on here?
1,400.
1,400 people. So quite a few people are
That's
doing
quite a
it.
few people.
I'm sure I know that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm
I would guess that if you start pulling 1,400 people out from a Walgreens, that it won't be long before you get to add Walgreens back, if that makes any sense.
Could be. They can figure it out, yeah.
They'll have it figured out pretty quick.
Well, until they do, they have.
Yep.
Which are the ones
No.
that you said? CVS?
CVS and Walmart.
It's your decision, it's
They
your
have
fault.
the retail 90.
Not Publix.
Not Publix. Publix, interesting. They have, and I have a few
Free
handouts for you.
antibiotic or something.
Let me hand you guys this real quick.
It's their own.
So they've actually started their own program as well.
Tim, can you pass one of those around?
Yeah.
So Publix doesn't do the retail at 90, but they have a kind of a similar deal. Those are 30 meds. Bridget, how many are on there? The prescription thing from Publix is about 27 medications that are generics that you can get for $7.50 at Publix for a 90-day supply. So, you know, that's anybody. You don't have to be on Cigna, you don't have to have insurance, just go and have a
These are
prescription
free.
and get it filled. Yeah, $7.50 for a 3-month supply
Of any of these are.
of any of
Oh,
those,
okay.
yeah, so.
I have
and-
another batch of, that are free, right? Publix, don't they have
Probably,
certain
yeah,
things?
it's a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
a lot of
Basically,
things.
So, you know, obviously, we're suggesting, let's implement these prescription changes, because it's about $1 million savings, give or take, a year to the plan. So, and it doesn't take away a benefit. So,
E-care?
yeah. So e-care, your question about the traveling nurse, this is kind of the traveling nurse, but a little bit different.
He's done.
To hire that nurse, you gotta pay for it, him or her, right? So this is a service, we looked at two different options here. Cigna has a program called MD Live, which is 24/7, 7 days a week, and we kind of like that. There's no cost to the district to add the benefit, so it's not like they charge you an administrative fee. You just put it out there and people can go, okay? And what it is you're sick, it's the middle of the night, you don't want to come into the center, maybe you got the flu or something. You call up the doctor, you know, if you got a phone or a computer, a webcam, whatever, they can actually look at you, you tell them what's going on. You video chat with them, they say, yeah, you've got XYZ, where do you want to go get your prescription filled? I'll call this in for you, off you go. That claim is between $42, which is what Florida Hospital charges for their e-care providers. 45, sorry.
We
45.
normally charge 49.
Oh, I thought we were gonna get you down to 42.
45.
40 is what you were thinking.
Yeah.
I was thinking 40, yeah.
That number has a ring to it.
$39.95 is on sale.
Even better.
Cigna's at $42 for their MD Live. So what you would do is essentially say to your employees, okay, you can go see the virtual doctor for a $20 copay, right? So that it's not going to be free, right? You can go to the clinic for free, or after hours you can go to the e-visit, right, for a copay. The claim gets filed through Cigna, through your regular health plan. The copay is paid with their credit card or whatever, and you guys would pay the balance of that claim. So if it's a $45 claim and a $20 copay, you would pay $25 through the health plan, right?
Why wouldn't that just be $40? I mean,
Well, you want them to, you could make it $40.
Basically, it's to incentivize their behavior, is why we felt like offering a copay as opposed to the $45.
So
Two
incentivizing
reasons.
this does save us money, even spending the $25.
Well, if it avoids an urgent care visit.
Right.
Yeah.
Or an ER visit.
Okay.
Or even a wellness
Okay.
center visit.
Right.
Yeah.
You're saving
Okay.
a lot of money.
Right.
Your copay for your primary care right now is
Gotcha.
$30. So we wouldn't want to make it more, we want to make it a little bit less.
Add that to the magnet.
Help, yeah,
Yep.
help
Yes.
make those,
Call
you know,
before
the
you go,
visits,
right?
you know, the backlog.
And I'm
of
not saying I
patients.
disagree with the
Yeah.
$20
Say, for
copay, I was
example,
just,
if we were to go into agreement with Florida Hospital and charge our employees $25 a visit, we would pick up the 20.
The difference,
The
yeah.
15.
He's still negotiating with it. Whatever the difference is, right.
The other
You guys
aspect too
decide what the copay is.
if we cannot provide care because the condition isn't such to where we can do it over the phone visually on the Facebook type of thing, but we need to get them at urgent care, there's no charge for the e-visit at all.
Oh,
Yeah, there probably would be through.
So
MD
unless we
Live.
actually provide care,
percentage-wise,
There's no cost.
how many end up being that?
well, Dr. Schwartzman would know that.
Yeah, not a
Less
lot.
than 5%. So 95% of these calls are,
Yeah, but
Yes.
I mean, on the way in, as they go in through the
No,
website.
you would pay the
it's
difference.
pretty
So if the
crazy.
claim is
They pick up
$45,
everything.
you
Okay.
have to pay 20.
so you can weed them out.
If they start with like chest pain, it's.
yeah, you're not gonna get an e-care visit, yeah.
Go take an aspirin. Call back in 2 hours.
Call me tomorrow.
See how that works for you.
That's right.
Yeah,
What's
most
our
people
normal
who use a e-visit, they
What's
know
our
what's
copay
wrong with
right
them.
now?
Yeah.
Right, they
Sure.
know, they got, it's the same thing, right? They got the,
Office visit, these
30.
phones.
So we have physicians, in fact, Dr. Schwartzman is one of them occasionally.
you might get in.
So we say 20.
So you could get Dr. Schwartzman,
So we think the $5
or
savings
other
would
physicians we
incentivize.
have, and we also have nurse practitioners that will
All right, so
provide
they're all
that care as well.
Florida-based people.
They are.
So we like the idea of Cigna because it was 24/7. These guys aren't 24/7. What are your hours, David?
Our hours are 8 to 8 during the week and 8 to 5 on the weekend.
Okay, so that's a disadvantage to going with the Florida Hospital version of this. the advantage is, we think, the connectivity between your center, right, and the doctors there versus a physician in Seattle or Houston or wherever, right, who's gonna go, okay, well, thank you, here you go, where do you wanna get your prescription done? We'll file a claim with Cigna, and that's it, there's no connectivity to the center. So we thought, let's roll it out. If we get a lot of pushback from people saying, hey, how come this thing shuts down at 8 o'clock at night, and I wanna call at midnight, we can always look at making a change to another vendor.
The same,
I'm gonna be honest with you, the first thing that I would think about when I think about telezoning is the time that I've had to drive my kids to the doctor at 2 in the morning. So, I mean, to be honest, this would not interest me at all. But that's just
The
me.
8 to 8 thing, yeah.
That's
hours.
just me.
Based on the hours.
But yeah, I mean, if I want to call somebody, it's going to be because it's 3 in the morning and I don't have to go anywhere. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think it's a valid point. I don't see it that way, though.
Yeah, no,
I
that's
actually think
fine.
that
I
there's
was saying that's
value
me.
in that 8 to 8 or whatever the
Yeah.
time span would be.
I'm gonna try this next time.
Well, I just said
Oh, I'll
to-
try it too,
to the
because, but it'll be
superintendent
9
Sarah
o'clock
said
when I want
would
to try it
do
after I put my kids to bed, and then I'm going to call and it's going to be 9 o'clock.
Do we have consensus from the board that offering $25 copay instead of the $45 to our employees would be a benefit you would want to add or not, or is there a different number? That's the
Or
question.
these.
Copay,
Pardon me?
for the
Yes,
call.
for the
For the
e-care
e-cars,
visit, to
basically.
add that as it would be basically an added benefit to
So-
our employees.
So at noon, I would pay $25
No,
to
that's
call
what I'm
e-care,
asking.
or I could,
Are you guys
or I
okay
could go
with
to
it?
the clinic for free.
Free, or you can go to your doctor, your regular doctor, for
Mm-hmm.
30 bucks.
I'm going to the clinic.
and the objective is, of course, to
all
not go to
best.
urgent care
Right.
and not go to the ED.
Right.
But then
And
you've
it's
also
probably
got
worth
the
the
teacher
$25
that
to
may
me,
be.
to not.
I-
How do you
points
wait
out
like you do in the
that
doctor's
can't
office on hold for like, we'll be with you in an hour and a half?
No, they usually get to the call within 2 to 3 minutes. Now, it's one provider that is.
It's worth that
covering
$25
at
to
one
me,
time.
if I got a cold or whatever. you know.
Visits usually take about 7 to 8 minutes, but they're very fast to get to them.
Yeah.
You can schedule appointment times as well, as opposed to being a live, right when you
They'll
need
call
it,
you back,
make it
right.
an hour.
I'm with you on the
lunch break.
pros and cons and having the local doctors, the connectivity, I'm all that, but I'm telling you, the 24/7 would actually weigh me, it weighs this much for me, and other things are down here.
I
So
would stitch my finger up.
This graph here will give you a national as a telehealth service. This is generally how
Yes,
it
I saw it.
falls. Yeah.
I'm saying for me.
But it can happen at 2, it can. The other thing too, when these providers get into the telehealth conversation, they will have access directly to the medical record that they may have at the center. And when they're done, the center can look at exactly what happened.
Yep, no, I think,
Or if
so
you
I
had
think
been
it's,
to a
that's why I'm not
central care?
against it, I'm just
Yeah.
telling.
Is
What we
this
were thinking is
national-
that we would try this with the Florida hospital piece, and then if we find that people really want the extended hours, we can switch to MD Live. But that's what we'd
Yeah,
like to
yeah,
offer
I'm
as
good.
an added benefit.
I'm good.
And
Hold on one second.
Really
Is
trying to
the-
just put a
Is
bug
the
in there.
national utilization number, or the chart the way that it is because the model across the nation is that it's 8 to 8?
Yeah.
Well, this would be, no. I would say there are some 24/7 services, MD Live being one.
We asked Cigna for their data, so we'll get that for you. How many calls do they get at night?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because, and I understand your point, that like, whatever, what,
MD Live, they
MD, what
can't
live
do
or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, this speaks to my point, that I was saying I would use this, but of course, you're not gonna have a lot of 2 and 3 AMs if everybody knows none of these are available at 2 or 3
Correct,
AM.
yeah.
So,
And I would use it as well. No, but believe, look, I live, and I know Dr. Pace knows, I live
Yeah.
30 minutes from my doctor, so I would,
It is
It's a-
important, Board, that we get to this next sheet. If we could
Yes,
just kind of
sorry.
give us direction, just because we've got 10 minutes.
This okay?
Last page, right, somewhere in here, where'd I go?
Am I missing anything?
hey, Dave, I love this.
No, as long as you guys are okay with what we're gonna try to offer with this.
I'm
This
all
is
in.
the, these are the proposed
Go ahead
plan
and
design
leave it.
changes to
will,
get us
yeah.
back in better shape.
Good to hear.
Yeah, I've already shared this with you
Correct.
once, and we have bargaining discussion again tonight. Just want to go over it. It now has been vetted through the insurance committee and at the bargaining team. They haven't yet signed the MOU, but we're pushing to get that done in the next month with OCEA, and then we'll have to get it to Teamsters.
Okay.
But we have to change the plan. I mean, there's no.
Sure, no, we have to.
We're
we are
bleeding.
gonna, they're gonna have to contribute more?
Yes.
Okay.
Particularly if you look, the family coverage is where, that's where you as a board were putting in far more than our employees. And so basically what this does, it goes back to if you use the plan more, you pay more.
So.
Use it more as in having more people on
More
it?
visits.
Or more visits, okay.
More illnesses.
More claims costs.
So the first, you have 3 plans currently, right? The Local Plus, the Wellness Local Plus, and the Wellness OAP. So that left-hand column of each of the 2 columns is your current plan, okay? So the benefit deductible for Local Plus is $500, $1,000, right? 70% coinsurance. After you meet your deductible, the plan pays
Slow down,
70.
slow down. Tell me where, you're reading on the top.
Very far
Okay.
left. Yep,
I'm
just
sorry.
sort of
Okay,
setting
yeah,
up
I'm
what
with
you're
you.
looking
I
at,
got
okay?
you.
Yeah, then.
I was listening.
That's your current plan down that very first column, okay? Right next to it is what we would say we've proposed to the committee as a change. So Local Plus proposed, we're going up on the deductible, right? The out-of-pocket maximum stays the same. Really, everything else pretty much stays the same. Drugs don't increase, right, Ken? All that stayed
Right.
the same.
Where's out-of-pocket maximum?
The third row down, the $6,300 and $12,600 for a family. Okay, that's your worst case scenario as an individual. Once you get to that, the district picks up 100% after that. Okay, that's basically the law. You go a little bit higher than that, but not much. Down towards the bottom is the 20 pay cost of that benefit. So employee only is 307 currently. We're projecting forward with our increased claims costs this, about 354. And that lines up with what you guys contribute. So kind of backed into these numbers a little bit to make the deductions work. The employee contribution for single coverage under that plan would still be 0. The next group of numbers down, employee contribution 20 pay, employee only currently 0, and the proposed 0, right? Employee plus spouse would go from 275 to 409. We purposefully raised the employee children rate a little bit less than we probably should have or needed to because we wanted to keep that still relatively affordable. I'm not saying $177 every 20 times a year isn't a lot of money, but it's probably needs to be more, but we left it at that. At the bottom, you see what the employer contribution is. So on the left-hand side, the $369.70 is what you were paying towards employee spouse. That'll go to $354. You were paying $425.60 for employee children. That'll go to $354. Everything sets to the employee contribution. So in essence, we are no longer making an additional contribution towards dependent coverage. I mean, that's what that says, okay? That's part of the problem with the surplus is that implicitly we say, folks, okay, we're going to cover the employees and the district contributes $63.98 per employee per year, but you actually pay more than that. You pay that for every single employee. For everybody who's taken dependent coverages, you're actually putting in more money, right? Because you start adding this stuff up. And, it's wonderful. You had a surplus, you had a fund balance that was higher than you needed. We've spent that down. We don't have that anymore. So this, again, we set those contributions across the board. So you look at that second column in every set of numbers, it's 354 all the way across. Doesn't matter which plan you pick, which tier you pick, the district pays the 354 times 20. That's your contribution.
Dr. Pace, how much are we contributing total annual to this, what you're presenting to us here?
$41 million. $63.98 times 7,000 people.
41 million, and that's up from how much from last year, or down from?
It's the same. So the
Okay.
$63.98 is what you guys contribute times 7,000 employees.
41 million, okay.
It's like 40 million, 700,000. So it's on this page, if you go back to the chart, right, the employer contribution. You also contribute the $3 million on top of that. You've done that in the past few years, so it's now $44 million.
Plus the 2.5 million
And
to Cigna.
you pay for the clinic. No, that's all in there. That comes out of
Okay.
that comes out of the expense side.
So the $57 million initially showed, that's all in everything?
That's all in. Yeah, that's the claims, that's the expenses to.
And the only way you can get any of that down showing you what you showed here is going back to this pharmaceutical page.
Lots of ways.
There's here's $1 million
There's $1
right
million
here.
bucks.
There's $1 million bucks right here.
Right.
Where's the other $1 million?
We can keep going. You talked about spouse surcharges, you can do that. There's-
No, out
there's-
of what you've got in
there's-
here.
There's plan designs, right, here's $5 million right here. So the projected savings on this stuff is about 4.9 million, this little number off to the far left. Okay,
Oh, okay, I see. It's here with some migration. Define WLP to LP, please.
Percentages of employees.
Almost
in each
local
one of
plus
these
to local
categories.
plus.
So how many are using local plus?
Very
Are you
few.
using
I'm
one
using
local
enhanced local plus because my cardiologist and my dermatologist aren't part of the local plus
We're
plan.
using the OAP, you're in the
I'm using some,
OAP.
okay, OAP, because
Yeah.
my wife had skin cancer, she needs her doctor, I had a heart attack, I need my doctor.
Yeah. These two have the
Say
same
the
network,
first thing
the
again.
local plus plans. OAP has a broader network.
If you got my cardiologist and the dermatologist, in there, I'd be buying that plan.
Because then I'm employee plus zero, so
Talk to Cigna.
OAP and the local plus are.
We gotta first talk to the doctor, see if we're part of the plan.
So that's 8% each way.
Each of those, and then everybody else.
I don't think my cardiologist even knows what wellness is. He's just busy being a cardiologist.
Thank you.
and you put your spouse on.
So that kind of brings us towards the end of the agenda and the end of the information that we had to share with you. Are there any
What are
additional
you
comments or
what are you
questions?
recommending, Dr. Jones?
That we
What's in
adopt
front
the
of us?
pharmacy plan changes and the plan design changes for the new year.
I'm on board with that.
And the net impact of that would be 6 million to us?
Next.
5 million here
Next
and
year.
1 on
Next
this? No, I get
That'll
that.
get you out of the whole year in for this year.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then keep in mind the increased cost of healthcare is, we're not really digging ourselves out of the hole, we're just helping ourselves keep up
Correct.
with that increased cost. So we're still.
Well, and hopefully at some
still
point, we're gonna come
be-
over the hump and start seeing some
So
savings.
the claims come down, yeah.
That's what you would hope, is that as we move into year 2 of the clinic, that you would start to see.
I didn't know people
Some of
didn't
that as a
get
positive.
drugs.
Can y'all-
Get mail order drugs.
I'm with you.
It's just easier.
So easy.
Right.
Mr. Thacker has a question, and then we can wrap this up.
Well, I
yeah.
don't have to ask.
It's okay, ask.
I'm just curious, you know you've got a handful of people, I don't know, maybe however many it was, that have not been going to the doctor that you found with some chronic issues. Is there any way to project, based on that, over some time, you know, they're gonna spend, we're gonna spend $100,000 on each one of them, had we not done anything? Ultimately, they would hit a chronic something that'd be $250,000 or something.
Yeah.
And is there any way to kind of, because I guess I sit here and I think that's really I think it's worth a lot to the employees, to people. Is there a financial number associated with that?
So here's how we're gonna do that, or here's how we're gonna try to do that, okay? The data from Cigna is coming over to Florida Hospital now. It took a long time to get that legal agreement done, right? Took a year. So, Cigna is sending a full claims file to Florida Hospital. They have a system called Verisk, okay? That is essentially, it's a data warehouse. So all that data goes into Verisk. What they are in the process of doing, and we've been pushing to get this done, is to use that data, right, compare it to people who are coming to the center, right? Mary Smith, you're coming in today for a visit. We noticed in your claims file from Cigna, all these things that you have, you know, you've been to the ER, your son's been for asthma, you're not having your medications filled. Those are all gaps in care, right, that can be identified
Okay.
from the claims file. So that when Mary comes into the center, they can grab her and say, okay, you know, what's going on with this stuff? How do we help you resolve some of these issues? And that's ultimately where this will pay off. Having that data and having Florida Hospital and the doctors within Florida Hospital really act on that stuff with those members. Reaching out to them, you know, preventing the knee surgery, preventing the heart attack, preventing the, you know, the mom who doesn't have an OBGYN assigned yet, but she's had a, you know, diagnosis of pregnancy, and it's like, what are you doing here, lady? You know, let's get you set up with a doctor.
We had our nutritionist talking with a particular employee who had had a surgery out of the U.S. and came back, and she says, I can't keep anything down with but Mountain Dew, and I'm drinking 6 cans of Mountain Dew a day.
Nice.
Oh, my gosh.
And the response was, oh my goodness, that's, that's something we need to help you get ahead of.
I mean, we haven't, even though it's taken us a while to get to this point, we haven't been just sitting idly. We do
I
get
know.
monthly reports of the cat claims, and it's anything that's reported that's $25,000 and over. So we have been working with the center and trying to, we can't see who they all are, but because they're a medical provider, they can. So we've been asking them to follow up on some of those people, like if they've had a hospital stay, are they following up after the hospital stay to make sure that, they're getting the care they need and those kind of things? Or if they don't have a primary care physician, come in and let us, get you set up as a patient here in the center. And so we are trying to outreach. It's kind of a sticky wicket maybe sometimes that we don't want to look like Big Brother watching, but if we can help, that's part of what the whole premise of the center is.
Yeah.
This was very helpful for me.
I really think we've got to be aggressive about communicating the importance of being a good consumer when it comes to medical care. We've got to figure out how to really push that and emphasize that to all of our employees, because they can make decisions that significantly impact.
Yeah, the deductibles help with that, because when it's your money, as the patient, I care more than when it's your money as the district, right? So co-pays inherently take that financial risk away from the
Healthcare with a
person.
deductible has more value than free healthcare.
Yeah, absolutely,
But if we're
right.
not careful, they'll just complain about the fact that they have to pay more, as opposed to really
know,
taking
I know.
the time to research the options. We've got to inform them that those options are available to
Yeah,
give them.
they got great tools. City's
better
got great
tools, yeah.
tools to do that stuff, right?
We've got to.
The other thing we're trying to encourage more too is you can self-refer in for physical therapy in the state of Florida for a 30-day period. So you don't need a physician to assess you before you can come to the center and access physical therapy. So we're trying to really up that percentage of self-referral.
That's cool, I didn't know that.
Thank you all very much. It's been very, very helpful. Appreciate it a lot.
Same here, thank you.
Board, I sent you a text about the latest incident today.
You still want me to keep it?
I can probably self-measure myself.
I didn't know if you wanted to, that's not meeting today. Something's on my calendar if you'd like to.
No.
Want to grab it?
Okay, now
We can just talk follow-up.
It's at this 47.
You can just briefly.
forgot about your response.
I don't ever consider that. That's a no decision.
Well, let's look at what he's got. I may want copies of that.
Dr. Pace, thank you.
The one, when
Thanks, guys, yep.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Wait, hold on.
Did you sleep with that?
No. Good Lord.